Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
If Dr. King was alive today, he'd be arrested and called an anti-police thug. As most Americans drink their beer and enjoy the day off, the thought that Martin Luther King Jr.'s struggle lives on is but a fleeting memory. By Matt Agarist, January 15, 2018. Nearly 50 years after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., his struggle for peace lives on. When most people think of the great man, born Michael King on January 15, 1929, they see an advocate for peace, who is celebrated by the U.S. government honored every year in January, on the third Monday. However, what the government tells us and what this great man did are two separate stories. Dr. King's position as the leader of the civil rights movement began after his election as spokesman for the Montgomery Improvement Association in December of 1955. What also started in that December of 1955 was the FBI's investigation into him. Like all those who stand against government-sanctioned violence, Dr. King was an enemy of the state. The fact that he's celebrated today by the same state that persecuted him is quite Orwellian. Advertisement. According to a report out of Stanford University titled, Martin Luther King, Jr. and the Global Freedom Struggle, the FBI had it out for Dr. King as soon as he began making waves. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, began monitoring Martin Luther King, Jr., in December 1955, during his involvement with the Montgomery bus boycott, and engaged in covert operations against him throughout the 1960s. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover was personally hostile toward King, believing that the civil rights leader was influenced by communists. This animosity increased after April 1964, when King called the FBI completely ineffectual in resolving the continued mayhem and brutality inflicted upon the Negro in the Deep South. King, April 23, 1964. Under the FBI's domestic counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO, King was subjected to various kinds of FBI surveillance that produced alleged evidence of extramarital affairs, though no evidence of communist influence. With a state that owes its very existence to the monopoly it holds on the use of violence, anyone who is pro-peace is a potential threat. This was the case in the 20th century just as it is the case in the 21st century. The fact that Americans take off of work one day in January, does not negate the reality that this struggle continues. Read more. Private dashcam footage captures police audacity at its finest. Dr. King's activism was often met with brutal backlash from police. Just like the protesters of today, who peacefully march in solidarity to end police violence, the protesters of the 50s and 60s were met with violence from the police. Attacks against nonviolent protesters are nothing new. In the 60s, as the marches increased, so did the attacks against nonviolent demonstrators. There may be some tear gas ahead. But I say to you today, that I'd rather die on the highways of Alabama, than make a butchery of my conscience, said Dr. King in his famous speech just prior to the Selma-Montgomery March, in which protesters were met with such violence from police that the day would be forever remembered as Bloody Sunday. The first march took place on March 7, 1965, and it gained the nickname Bloody Sunday after its 600 marchers were attacked at the Edmund Pettus Bridge after leaving Selma. State troopers and county posse attacked the unarmed marchers with billy clubs and tear gas. Does this type of police reaction to protests sound familiar? Dr. King was no stranger to police and being arrested. In fact, during his 12-year run as the leader of the civil rights movement, he was arrested 30 times. Today, there is a good chance Dr. King would be referred to as a thug by a large portion of society and police for his activism. Dr. King, like many of the protesters of today, stood against state violence and war. Those who wage the wars and initiate the violence, delegating a single day in January to honor a man who stood against their very tactics, is defamatory to the struggle for peace, to say the least. Read more. Watch. 13-year-old girl films ICE agents kidnapping her dad as he drops her at school. So, while you are out there today, enjoying the day off, remember that this struggle is far from over. As long as innocence is lost to those who claim to protect it, the conflict remains. As long as people of all races are harassed, kidnapped, locked in cages or killed over victimless crimes, our strife will persist. Not until the corruption ceases, not until all the troops are brought home, not until a person can do with their own body as they see fit, not until the brute force changes to compassion, will the perpetual struggle of Dr. King and all those before and after him be complete. Peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal. Martin Luther King, Jr.
One day she got old, she couldn't fight anymore. She said, I'll stand here and I'll fight anyhow. Oh, we are soldiers in the army. We've got to fight. Although we have to cry, we've got to hold on. Hold it up, the blood-stained banner. We've got to hold it up until we die. I'm so glad I'm a soldier. I've got my hands on the gospel plow. One day I'll get old and I can't fight anymore, but you know I'll stand here, child, and I'll fight anyhow. Oh, we
shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall
Whites live side by side in decent, safe, and sanitary housing.
Yes, sir.
Let us march on segregated schools.
Let us march.
Until every vestige of segregated and inferior education becomes a thing of the past, and Negroes and whites study side by side in the socially healing context of the classroom. Let us march on poverty.
Let us march.
Until no American parent has to skip a meal so that their children may eat.
Yes, sir.
Let us march on ballot boxes.
Yes, march.
March on ballot boxes until race baiters disappear from the political arena. Let us march on ballot boxes until the Sadian misdeeds of bloodthirsty mob
Yes, sir.
will be transformed into the calculated good deeds of orderly citizens.
Speak, doctor.
Let us march on ballot
Let us
boxes
march.
until the Wallaces of our nation tremble away in silence. Let us march on ballot boxes
Let us march.
until we send to our city council,
Yes, sir.
state legislatures,
Yes,
and the
sir.
United States Congress,
Yes, sir.
men who will not fear to do justly,
Yes, sir.
love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. Let us march on ballot boxes until brotherhood becomes more than a meaningless word in an opening prayer, but the order of the day on every legislative agenda. Let us march on ballot boxes until all over Alabama, God's children will be able to vote.
God gave to us, we're gonna let it shine. Oh, God gave to us, we're gonna let it shine. Oh, God gave to us, we're gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, all in the church, we're gonna let it shine. Oh, all in the church, we're gonna let it shine. Oh, all in the church, we're gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
County. This is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Sheriff County Cop Watch with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if some, if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say, actually, yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But, do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, if I got, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.